everybody. Welcome back to Soul Tribe Saturdays on Soul Speak with Jenny Israel. Today, I have a very special guest who I call basically she's one of my OG of the Angel Tribe way back when. When I started my Seraphim Blueprint journey, Erica was actually one of my first clients that came to me through a mutual friend that got to receive the Seraphim Blueprint and then later became a student of mine. So Erica is also part of the Seraphim Blueprint community. So Erica Lupinacci, you can find her on social media now as Erica the Medium, which is a really interesting journey. I'm going to let her share a little bit about her story and herself before we get started with today's podcast, which is a forecast for the month of December, which is going to be fun. So Erica, just tell us a little bit about how you got to be Erica the Medium.
Well, hi everybody. So my journey is a long journey, but I won't bore you with all the details. But my journey, I basically had a lot of my gifts from the time I was younger, and my journey was basically learning how to step into them and accept them, and show myself to the world. And with that being said, I met Jenny at a very poignant time in my life. And this is like one of the other things that I kind of tell people: your soul actually goes forward first before your subconscious and your conscious kind of like connects. So for me, it was like I didn't know why I was looking for certain things, but I was just following my path. And when I met Jenny, Jenny was doing Reiki healing. And I heard about her through word of mouth. And it was like my soul was just guided to go there. And I had no idea why I was, at her doorstep services. And here it is years later, my journey that she's been a part of. It's just, when I look back at it, I can't even believe how those paths really meant something. So for me to wind up on her doorstep and initially start the healing within was something that was needed for me to get to where I'm at. And I guess that's the message, really, is just it's been a long journey. And part of those messages today are going to be the same, because I kind of feel like it's very relevant for where we are now in the world. But like I said, it's just, meeting Jenny like kind of ignited me. You're going to meet those people in your life that ignite you, that blow you open and allow you to walk the path that you're supposed to be walking on. And so I'm forever grateful.
Well, I'm grateful to have you in my life too, and have been able to watch the expression and the birth of the gifts that were already there, but needed a clearer channel to be burst through. I mean, I always saw Erica as being able to connect. I think the first way that her gifts showed up inside of our sessions was through a shamanic level. And I felt like, my God, she was like this goddess that could traverse the shamanic levels of the earth and communicate with spirits on those levels. And now she's up in the angelic realm and tuning into all different kinds of radio frequencies. And I do think that it is an important aspect of the path inside of the spiritual journey that people understand that there is something that crosses your path at some point that is the catalyst to blow you open. But that is a process. It is a journey. A lot of us do have to go through channel clearings of one kind or another, whether it's through energy work or through diet changes or through a health crisis that leads us to alternative medicine, or losing a loved one that then becomes our access to the etheric realm. I mean, there's all different ways that we end up connecting with our gifts, but it is definitely not always something that happens overnight. I think,
And
yes.
sometimes it's multiple times that things happen that keep bouncing you up into other realms. So it's like, it's for me, it hasn't been just that one time. There's been one time where it pushed me into revealing those gifts, but then there's been multiple other levels of where something came in and ignited the next level. So it's just a forever process. So, um,
And, I think that's one of the reasons why I love the fact that inside of this podcast that I called my soul tribe, that I get to have my actual soul tribe come in and express their gifts and talk to the listeners. And as far as what does soul tribe mean to me, it's not just words. It truly is the link that we have with other people. It's those soul connections we contracted to come in to help wake each other up and to open these gifts so we could be in service to humanity. And so my soul tribe is incredibly special to me for that very reason, because now it feels like this team effort. It's like all of these amazing people that are coming together, that we can actually work with each other and for each other, inside our gifts to help heal each other. But
and
then
we
together, we're
raise,
doing it for everyone.
and we also, being surrounded by us like-minded individuals, we keep raising ourselves, we keep raising our vibration to another level. And I never used to think about, that concept of like, oh, you are who you surround yourself with, or be around like-minded people. Yes, it was always a thought in my head, but we're actually living it right now. And you can see the benefits of surrounding yourself with such like-minded people that have the same drive and the same wants for humanity, and how we keep just raising ourselves to another level. And it's just a beautiful thing that I've been able to witness, along this journey with everybody, with our soul tribe.
Yes,
So
it has been amazing. And I think that, December, and I'm sure that Erica's already got this swirling around in her head as far as the messages that are coming through for each of us and for the collective. And a lot of it has to do with what we're talking about right now. It's about elevating ourselves to the next level. And in previous podcasts, over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about the focus on relationships and how, you know, these new energies that are coming in are going to show you who needs to stay and who needs to go. And I think it has a lot to do with what Erica was just saying.
well, that's funny that well, nothing's funny to us anymore, but I was actually journaling before I got on to your podcast. And the other message that I was getting about what's going on right now, the energy for December, I feel for most of December, is I wrote down it's leaving friendships, leaving relationships, maybe even work relationships. And I even wrote down that it's time to stand in the mirror and decide how these relationships have affected you and what they're bringing to the table. And and the other side of it is also about like why are you holding on to this relationship, whether it be work related or a regular relationship or a friendship, when you know that it's not serving you. Like, what is it about you that you are using them as a blanket, or the situation as a blanket, because that's what you're comfortable with? Like, it's time for you to move out of that space and really understand the whole picture, like what you brought to the table, why the situation is the way it is, whether you're accepting certain behaviors, whether you're using it just to hold on when they've already left mentally, or whatever it may be, and you're still wanting to hang on. What is it about yourself that makes you get to that point that you're not allowing to move forward in your life? So I just feel, that was something that was channeled, as I was getting ready to go on your podcast. And I thought that was an important message, because I just feel like there's so many people in that realm right now.
Well, I like the analogy of the blanket. One of my other girlfriends, she's a channeler basically of God energy. But she talks about this covering that we have, and that the covering keeps us from being seen in our whole self, our fullest self, for good or for bad, for whatever the case is, that
Mhm.
there is this covering, and that we can act as coverings for other people, and you look at it from both sides, where it's, why are you allowing that person to cover you? and not
Yeah.
let your full light shine? But then also, are you acting as a covering for another person inside of codependent vibrations where you're not allowing them to be their whole self? For good or for bad. I mean, a lot of times we become someone's covering because we're afraid that they can't handle life, right? For whatever reason,
Yeah.
or we don't want them to be exposed.
Right.
But a lot of this stuff is in the, you know, in the sake of truth, like the purest form of truth, a lot of these things are being taken away.
There it is. And I can even relate to, on a personal note for myself, and I'm looking at myself saying, wow, I seem to want people to cover me so that I don't shine. So a lot of my a lot of my self-work that happened during these times, especially through COVID, is allowing myself to shine and not allowing other people's problems to overtake me. Because sometimes you have to think of why you put so much into something, or why you put so much into someone, or why you do so much for everyone. Like, you have to think, are you doing it because you don't want to look within? You don't want to shine? Like, everything has to have a balance. And we know that everything we do needs to be balanced. So I just felt like that was just such a personal thing for myself to learn how to be balanced, and that it's okay that if I shine a little bit, and it's okay that I don't put so much energy into someone blinding myself of my own journey. It's important for you to be on your own journey and not try and take someone's journey from them or control someone else's journey. So that was like a big lesson for me personally, is just to stand in myself, and it's okay to be naked. It's okay to let yourself shine. It's okay to be vulnerable. I mean, I'm doing this podcast right now and I feel very vulnerable. It's the first time I'm ever doing a podcast, but it's okay to do that. It's okay not to live in the fear and just go with it, and those things that you fall into change for the better. It makes you a better person. It makes you less fearful. It makes you open to other opportunities, whether it be to love, to new jobs, new friendships. It kind of like it just feeds your soul, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I feel like that leads into the other message that you were expressing to me that had started to come through more collectively. This
Yeah.
pattern of messages that was coming through for quite a few clients.
Yes.
So
Well, the
it's
men were like, as you know, I was doing readings for a friend of ours. And before I even went to the readings, I usually sit down with myself and sit in silence, and all these messages start coming through, and I write them down because I always feel like they're very important. And they've been shown to be important because it's usually a message for someone. And so I knew I was going there to see if, people. And the message that kept coming up was just to be comfortable in your own skin. And I kept writing the message and writing the message. And I'm like, well, I know I'm going to see multiple people. That can't be the only message. So sure enough, I'm there. I'm doing all the readings. And now one by one, this is the first time that that's ever happened to me, that all the readings had the same message: be comfortable in your own skin, no matter what that looks like. And what I mean is, some had weight issues, the way that they viewed themselves with society, whether they felt that society wanted them to be thin, or whatever the case may be with their weight issues. Then it was more about how society looked at them, but the end result was all the same message, like, be comfortable in your own skin. So sure enough, after, I'm like, this seems like a collective message. And then I get, the message from you: do you want to, do the podcast? And I'm like, this is definitely a message we have to put out there, because I just couldn't believe that everyone I read for the entire week, the same message was repetitive. And like I said, that was the first time that ever happened. And it's just really about learning to, again, be your most authentic self, being okay in your own skin, whether that has to do with how you perceive your weight or how you perceive yourself in the world. I mean, and again, this hits home for me as well because I also happen to work in a financial industry. So for me, I've always put, this kind of front up, if you want to say, it's you're working in a financial in a corporation world, and you're viewed in a certain way. You're handling clients' money, so you're the way you portray yourself, you feel like you need to portray yourself in a certain light. So with me also experiencing what I've been experiencing on a personal level with tapping into my gifts, it became to a point of how far do I go with this? How far do I expose myself without maybe people looking at me like, in a weird way? How much of that will affect what I do during the day? I don't want people that I spend most of my time with looking at me in a different way. I don't want my children to ask, why are you putting yourself out like this? I didn't want to, I spent all this time thinking about how it was going to affect everyone else. And I actually stopped myself from growing. And now that I've kind of like put that burden down, I'm realizing that I affect so many people on different levels, even within my own workspace during the day. So it being authentic is that's where it is. That's where the growth is. That's where the love is. That's where your soul journey is. And I'm realizing that. And I'm still on my path there. I'm still on my way. I'm still getting comfortable with being out there with everything I am. But that is the message for a lot of people. So I just, I feel like that message is such a beautiful message in itself, just to be authentic. People associate with authenticity, with humans, with being human, not the facade, being human. So,
I love that. I love I had this thought that was coming into my head a couple of over the last couple of days, and I was thinking about my own journey and having the energy of authenticity come up for me a lot. In fact, again, today inside of client sessions, again, it was also a theme. And I think to myself, being someone who coaches so many other gifted people and empathic people, I think back to my own path, and I spent the better part of my life as a chameleon, not really understanding what my authentic self looked like.
mhm,
And for a long time, I looked back at all of those years in a way that I think was kind of filtered with some sort of regret or shame. And
mhm,
I've come to appreciate recently that I think the most gifted part of our journeys as empathic people is the journey to getting to the point where we call ourselves an empath. It's like all of those things up until that point of discovering who we really are by trying on all of these other roles, trying on these other personas, trying on these different masks, trying to
mhm,
figure out what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And I was even talking about it in one of my IG lives this past week about this statement that was coming up over and over again from my clients, which was a limiting belief, but yet
mhm,
the subconscious holding on to it of I'm a fraud, and this feeling of shame of like I don't belong here, I'm pretending to be something that I'm not. And I think that this energy is starting to bubble to the surface on a microcosm and macrocosm level, because I mean certainly politics, like don't we assign that to
yeah,
politics, like they're all frauds, like
yeah,
who's a real human, of all of those people. And I think that people are really looking for real human beings now inside of administration and new role models to turn to that do feel real. And I think we're still trying to figure that out. I don't think we have quite figured out what is real and what's not real, and trying to figure out our own personal truth inside of that. But this journey of unbecoming, right? It's like you have to unbecome the person you were to become the new version that is trying to reveal itself.
yeah. And the other part of that too is, it's not being an empath. We're not here selling anything. what we're doing is being ourselves and trying to pass on certain things that we've learned to maybe help someone else along their journey. If we could surround people that are just starting the journey and think about where we were then, um, being authentic is the best thing. It's like I connected with authentic people that decided to put their stories out there, decided to talk about their trauma, decided to stand in front of everyone and be exactly who they are and be unapologetic and not shamed for what they went through and where they've come from and where they are. So that's what the message is, that this is not, we're here about humanity, but we're here also to help people along their journeys to know that they don't have to be shamed or be in silence. And that to me is important.
So I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a second.
Okay. I really feel
um,
like I'm hot seat.
Now, I mean, Erica works with a few different tools. She's used cards for years, and done card readings, and then recently started to try to go outside of her comfort zone and put down some of her tools and just open her channel to let things come in.
Yeah.
But she also has been known to have some prophetic dreams and different kinds of visions, and as things are starting to come in. So I'm just curious, off the cuff or just opening your channel to let spirit come in, what you might see coming, if not just for this month, but what portals might be opening in December for what's coming.
Well, what right away I hear unity. I do hear unity. And what that looks like, I'm not quite sure yet because I'm still, the things that I've dreamed of and how they came into play was nothing else like I could have imagined. But, I've had visions where collectively we've all walked into, and I know it sounds weird, but, Jenny, you and I speak like this. I speak about my dreams. And basically, one of my visions were where we collectively were dressed in regular clothes. Everybody's wearing their own clothes. And we walked through these gates, and I'm not saying like the pearly gates. It was more like a chain link gate. I don't know why it looked like that, but it was just like a chain link gate. And one by one, we all walked through. And as we walked through that gate, we wound up in a valley. And in the valley, as we walked through, we changed into all of us wearing black and white. And together we held hands. And that was the vision that was given to me, is that we as a collective, we are going to be united within oneself, united within your families, united with your friends, united. Everything is going to break down so that you can live in unity. And to me, that vision reflected the yin and the yang, you know just just everything. The feeling that I got was just unity, equal unity across the way. So with all of these things that are happening now in the collective, you can see all the imbalances breaking down slowly. They're breaking down so that we come back and rise, so that we can be as one, a unit together, the way that we're supposed to live life, a unity within self, to where there's balance within yourself, balance in your relationships, balance in your friendships, balance in your workspace, balance among the community. And I think that it just doesn't go for December. I just feel like this is where we're headed. Yeah, and that vision was very, very, very moving to me, because I sometimes I wish I could have a projector and really show everybody exactly what I see when I have these visions. But it was so beautiful and so moving, because I actually felt that in my heart space, that this is really going to happen. And maybe you just don't see it on certain levels, but if you take a look around, you can see that people that have been suffering and how things have been imbalanced in people's homes, and again, workspace and etc. You could see how these things are changing. The relationships are changing. The balancing is starting. You're being forced to look at the balance or the imbalance. So for me, December, this is really where we're headed. I say into January as well. It's really about unity, unity, coming home, coming to balance, coming to self, coming to the correction of injustices, not just in the planet, but within yourself. So that's the message that I feel. That's the message that I have for everyone.
It's interesting. I mean, as far as the vision and the valley, what do you connect with that? What do you connect with symbolism? Do you connect with the valley? I instantly, for whatever reason, heard it in my head of like the connection to death. In that prayer where it's like we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or like
It's funny saying that, chills just went up my arm. I- Saying that, just chills, complete chills.
but my thinking is that this is such a new place for humanity to go, that we have to experience a complete death of the old in order to be able to move into this new.
You do, and people that have, and I want to say people that have ignored their part and kept certain things a certain way, they're being forced to look at things right now. And I actually feel, my heart goes out to people that are suffering like that right now, because it was a long time coming. You have to look at yourself, you have to make these changes, and that is exactly what the energy is. Not picking and choosing who the this type of energy connects to. It's just the different levels of the work that you've done with yourself. So if you've been working and progressively working, you're not going to be impacted as much. You're still going to feel the energy changing, but the people that really were stuck, they're the ones feeling it the most. And for me, I pray for them. I pray for them, and I hope, because I never wish that. I mean, these are like dark nights of the soul type of things that they're feeling. And when you are a healer, as we are, we have gone through our own personal dark nights of the soul, and I would never wish it on my worst enemy. So it's just a pain like you don't want to, you can't explain it. And so when I really think about, when I feel and I have these visions, my mind goes to that, how I know that we've been doing the work, so I'm okay. Even though I have days where I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have doubt, I have, where am I going with this, who am I, like, but I still can get through it. And when I think about the people that are just starting that journey, and because they closed their eyes and they weren't awakened for so long, my heart goes out to them, because they're in pain right now. They're in pain, and they too will get through it. But that's what I mean by the different levels. We're all at different levels, but the energy doesn't pick and choose. We're all feeling the same exact energy, but it's where you are. It's just where you are.
Yeah, and goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, like how covered are you by your blanket? you know
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
what and it's like ripping off that band-aid now, because now we're not being given any transition time. It's just like,
No,
no, you're being pushed into the valley. It's the herd going through the gate, like you're going to get pushed with
you
the crowd.
And as you're saying that, that's exactly like the vision. Like everyone was going through this chain. It was almost like, when everyone squeezes through like a small area, but there's a crowd of people. That's exactly was the vision. It was like everybody's crowding in there, but once they get there, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. There was, and the representative of black and white. It was just so impactful to me, because I felt right away like the yin and the yang, and the dark and the light, and the injustices and the good and the balance. Like it spoke volumes about where we are today and where we're going. And we're meant to go through those gates. We're meant to go to that valley. And the valley also represented for me that, when you get to the valley and you're looking down, it's not that you're looking down on everyone. This is the first time you're actually able to stand at a higher perspective and look at things in a healthy way. And instead of being down in the drench of it, of things, or whatever you want to call it, you're actually standing tall above it and having a healthy perspective of where you need to go in life, with everything being compiled together. So that vision was something that, obviously I hope I did a good job explaining it, but it was very powerful. And that is really where I feel like we're going. And I had three or four premonitions leading up to this pandemic. And I'm just happy that I'm able to actually get the last one out publicly, because it really, if I wish I was standing in my truth and my authentic self to have passed those messages to everyone, when they were supposed to be passed on, instead of at the tail end. So I'm part of this journey too. I'm learning too. And I'm just glad that I'm able to do that.
Well,
So,
it could be that, at this point in time, the visibility of the meanings within the things, and because that there are people listening to this podcast right now that have also received visions or have
mm,
had dreams or are
right.
getting feelings, and they're keeping it to themselves because they don't want people to think they're crazy, or for whatever reason they're keeping their own covering on,
Yeah.
and understanding that no matter when you decide to shine your light, the timing will always be divine, because there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't have been able to hear you, Erica, back then.
Yeah.
And now they can hear you. And now they can see it inside of their own mind's eye, and they can resonate with it because of where we are now versus where we were then.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the lifetime's worth of growth and things that have happened over the last 8 months
Mhm.
is unprecedented. It's not anything that anybody has experienced. We're in completely uncharted territory. And so there's no better time for complete and total transition into something new than we are. I mean, when I was talking to Charlene last week about this, she brought up the play that Neptune has in our astrology right now. And
Mhm.
Neptune tends to bring the black and the white when it comes to death. It's very literal death and very literal rebirth.
Wow.
And so a lot of people get scared of that, because when we hear death, we automatically think of loss, we think of abandonment, we think of grief, we think of all of those things that we don't like to feel inside, and the
Mhm.
things that we tend to avoid because they don't feel good. Like you're saying, it's like being thrown into that dark night of the soul. I've been there too. And
Oh,
it is a place that when you see someone that's there, like every cell in your body can feel
oh,
it for
yeah.
them. And but at the same time, it's now we have the visibility as healers to say, I'm not going to cover you. I'm not going
Mm,
to cover you while you're in your dark night of the soul, because of the fact that this is where you have to go to discover your light and discover your gifts, and discover the healing that needs to be done. And it's in that death experience that all of these things come to light. And so I think that those messages, even though they came early on and you couldn't communicate them at the time, perhaps we weren't ready to receive it
yeah.
at that time.
Well, no, you have a good point. You definitely have a good point, because, this has been a learning experience for myself, a huge learning experience. And, you know, I pretty much had to go through that dark night of the soul. And I look at it now as a gift. I actually look at it as a gift, as painful. And you might go through the dark night of the soul like maybe twice, three times, whatever it takes for you to get to where your soul needs to be. But now I look at it like a gift. And I think I even put like a little quote out on my story yesterday about, I really used to ask, myself, why me? Just why me? Why do I have to be different? Why can't I just be like everybody else? Why do I feel so alone? Um, what, just why? why me? Why did I get cursed with this in so many ways, you know? And now, you know, I truly do feel, I tell, you know, I say to my higher self, thank God it was me. And I really feel that way. I thank myself that it is me, because it takes us to put these messages out. It takes people to be leaders, to show themselves in their good, bad, and ugly form. It takes a certain kind of person to stand out amongst the sheep and show yourself, and to be authentic and love every part of that journey, and love every part of yourself. It takes that person, and it takes those gifts that you don't think are gifts to get you there. So, you know, we all play a part, and I'm just playing my part, and I hope it's a good part.
Well,
You know, but
I mean, I've personally experienced readings with Erica, and I'm never disappointed with the way that Spirit has communicated through her, even sometimes unsolicited. I'm always grateful for the messages that come through, and I'm grateful that this is the first time I've ever done a monthly forecast for the podcast, because this is new, a new part of my communication journey. And I didn't really know what it would look like, and I think that it's really cool that the messages that are coming through from Spirit now are so much more about self-development, not so much about, actual events. It's like, oh, you should prepare for this happening on
Mhm.
December 21st. It's
Right.
not necessarily like that anymore. Other than, everyone's saying that the spaceships are going to show up, which probably is going to happen within the next 6 months.
Oh
But
my gosh, and don't get me started on that. I told my dream with spaceship number 10 showing up.
yeah, that's for another day. We'll
Yeah,
dig into the
exactly.
galactic stuff. But I'm grateful that you were willing to come on and do this and try something new for yourself. And this is new for me too. I really enjoy the way that your gift comes through in all of these different ways. I would encourage you, if you are interested in experience Erica for a reading. Are you still doing in person? Are you doing everything virtually? What's your structure at this point?
Well, I'm doing one on, you know, in person, but I do a lot of a virtual FaceTime, Skype. So yeah, I'm pretty much doing that. I actually have one tonight as well.
So how do you suggest that people find you? What's the best way to find you?
Well, right now I'm working on I they can reach me through Instagram. Instagram would be the best way. I'm through at Erica the Medium. So if they want to private message me, they can certainly reach me through there, through Instagram. Instagram or Facebook, but through Instagram right now primarily. So I'm working on other areas, as you know, to for people to make it easier for people to get in touch with me.
Okay. And then I know you're doing gallery readings now. Are you doing those for private parties? Are you doing those in public storefronts? How's that working?
Well, it's interesting because I just started doing the galleries, which that's been phenomenal. But due to COVID, it's kind of taken a back seat until that kind of like till we you know get some further information regarding that. But I have been doing privates at people's homes, you know, between 7 to 10 people. Yeah, so that's basically what I've been doing. And then I've been doing storefronts, going to Amy's crystal shop, and you know, just people were waiting there for me to do readings, which was so beautiful. And I'm so thankful to Simplicity Yoga for allowing me to have that beautiful space there as well. So it's just been a whirlwind right now. So I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that I'm on your podcast. I'm just thankful, and really thankful for you. Just, you're phenomenal at what you do. I look at you as one of these master teachers, master teachers. It's like, just putting it lightly. You've guided me and helped me tremendously, tremendously. And I'm just forever grateful to you. I
Well,
really,
thank you
you're,
very much. This is, I mean, it's why we do what we do, right? It's to be
yeah,
able to watch others bloom and grow and heal, and it is my life's joy for sure.
yeah.
So thank you again for taking time out to be on the Soul Tribe Saturday. And once again, anybody that's listening, if you're interested in booking a reading or a gallery with Erica, you can reach out to her on Instagram via Erica the Medium. If you're on a podcast platform, you can find her details also in the comments in the details section of the podcast, or you can come on to my social media where these posts will also be available at Jenny Israel CPC on Instagram and Facebook. So we're wishing you all a happy, healthy December, no matter how you're celebrating or where you are, no matter what you're going through, knowing that you are always supported and that we are sending you lots of love and light.
Yes.
And until next time, thank you again, Erica, and to all those listening on Soul Speak with Jenny Israel. Blessings and light to all, and we'll
Love
see you
you.
next time.
Thank you.